Nike is the world's largest sportswear brand. This year, the company is on a mission to get its stride back. This week, the company posting its first earnings under new CEO Elliott Hill.
Nike beating on the top and bottom lines, but its sales fell 8%.
Analysts say it's the beginning of a long turnaround for the company. After what should have been an Olympic gold earnings summer, Nike shocked the market.
Shares of Nike are in free fall after they missed on revenue last night and cut their full-year earnings guidance. The shares down 20% are on pace for their worst day ever.
The plunge wiped out $28 billion of Nike's market cap.
Yo, what's up, guys? This is Bad Decisions, where we watch people make bad decisions. Your boy Sherm, man, Jay. Can they make it come? So this actually came to a little bit of a surprise to me because since I've been a kid, Nike has always been like the big shoe brand or the only shoe brand I ever saw people wear in high school. Like even kids from different cultures, like white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, that like pretty much all they wore was Nike. So like growing up and seeing that be like the biggest shoe to me seemed like the decline is kind of odd. But to be honest, I'm not quite surprised. Back in the day, I did used to be a big sneakerhead, and just the quality. I think this is honestly the biggest thing is the quality. I think Nike has risen their prices up so high and the quality isn't matching. And now that they have a whole bunch of other competition, like they have like Yeezys and other shoes that people are looking at, they don't have the market so closed in. And I think one of the biggest issues is just the fact that they just got too comfortable. Nike has been releasing the same Jordan shoes since, my parents have been alive, and they've been trying to make all their money off of that and haven't really created a whole lot of innovation in the last couple of years. Like I can't remember the last new Nike shoe that I saw that everybody just wore. Like people tend to wear like Air Forces and Jordans and like stuff that you've seen for a long period of time. It's like they haven't really tried to innovate or really try to change the game. And I think we're going to be like
Its stock is cut in half since the all-time high in November of 2021. Like what's happening? Is competition eating their lunch? I mean, that's pretty clear to me.
The company blamed its performance on everything from macro challenges to remote employees.
It turns out it's really hard to develop a boldly disruptive shoe on Zoom.
But experts say this was part of a years-long series of strategic errors.
When a $50 billion business sees a down 10% quarter, it's not an overnight occurrence.
Meanwhile, net sales of emerging competitors HOKA and On Running have both increased over 30% in recent quarters. Even established rivals like Adidas and Asics have seen growth while Nike has declined.
Nike has fallen behind. And I think that's illustrative of the fact that they've had a bit of a lull when it comes to innovation. If you don't have that, then the kind of scale that Nike has achieved isn't worth much if you don't have the growth.
Now, all eyes are on Nike's new CEO, Elliott Hill, to turn the company around.
Company veteran Elliott Hill is going to come out of retirement like Tom Brady to take the helm.
So what happened? And can Nike's new CEO get the iconic sportswear giant back on track? Since going public in 1980, Nike's formula of marketing around elite athletes helped it become a global superpower.
So what makes Nike special? Well, that's, I think, part of the magic of the marketing. So much of retail is storytelling. Nike dominates, or historically has dominated, storytelling.
We came back from the impossible, from being broken.
And that storytelling resulted in strong sales. By 2016, Nike reported annual revenues of $32 billion. Nike co-founder and former chairman Phil Knight decided he wanted to shift the company's focus towards digital growth before he stepped down as chairman in 2016. In 2020, former Nike board member John Donahoe replaced Mark Parker as CEO of the company.
Joining me is John Donahoe. He is the brand new CEO of Nike.
Thank you, sir. Thrilled to be here with you.
Nike, under Parker, they were hitting their stride when it came to design, resonating with the consumer. The next wave of growth for Nike was going to be in digital. Donahoe made sense because his background is as a tech executive. He was the CEO of ServiceNow. He was the CEO of eBay. So he came from Silicon Valley.
Under Donahoe, Nike began moving towards a more direct-to-consumer model, or DTC, by pushing sales directly from its own platforms and stores.
What Nike did is they decided, let's focus on DTC. It's a higher margin business, and of course, they want to keep the best releases for themselves, and therefore they pulled back from some of their long-standing partners, like Foot Locker, for example.
For a while, the plan seemed like it was working. In September 2020, Nike reported digital sales growth of 82%, despite relatively flat revenue for the quarter compared to the previous year.
Because of COVID, we all went into lockdown, and Nike digital online sales were booming. They were ahead of the game when it comes to retailers selling online because they were first at it, and they did extremely well.
Encouraged by the success, Nike began officially limiting ties with retail partners like Dick's Sporting Goods and Foot Locker and cutting others out altogether. This was a bold move. As of June 2021, these wholesale partners still accounted for around 61% of Nike's sales, but Donahoe seemed to double down on Nike's digital push. In an earnings call, Donahoe said the consumer is digitally grounded and simply will not revert back. Here's the problem. Research shows that DTC doesn't always work the way businesses hope it will. A 2024 study by BMO Capital Markets found that retailers who sell directly to consumers didn't actually see a relative increase in revenue, margins, or other profit markers.
Everyone thought, oh, if I eliminate the middle person, I eliminate the partner, I'll get their profits, I'll get their margins. What we showed is it wasn't happening. We realized, no, you don't eliminate the middle person, you become the middle person. And the middle person isn't necessarily a great place to be if you don't have their scale, if you don't have their expertise. And so everyone had to absorb all the costs of running those operations. We found those brands did not see a relative improvement in their sales. They didn't see a relative improvement in their profits. It just didn't happen.
What Nike thought was a sales boost from its new digital model may have just been fortunate timing as the world went into COVID lockdown and shopping went virtual. Digital model may have just been fortunate timing as the world went into COVID lockdown and shopping went virtual. In 2021, as lockdowns lifted and consumers started to seek out in-store experiences, Nike's digital growth started stalling. Internally, the company was undergoing layoffs and cost-cutting measures that it said were focused on shifting resources and creating capacity to reinvest in our highest potential growth areas.
It does appear, according to analysts, that Nike over-rotated toward the direct-to-consumer, and then when it came back time for Americans and folks around the world to go shopping again after COVID, Nike just didn't have the same kind of priority and placement on the shelves, and it didn't have those styles that were really resonating with consumers.
Nike had also pulled back on developing its running business during a time when a record number of athletes joined the sport during COVID.
It had a big impact. Nike previously was really integrated into that running community and always speaking to that community, and that gives you authority and credibility in the category. They pulled back on that.
At the same time, Nike was also grappling with a slowdown in consumer spending in China.
There's no question that he can blame some of it on macro, but it's the flatline growth in North America, which is more suspect and harder to blame on the macro, especially when Adidas is growing its chief competitor because it has more innovative styles that people are really gravitating toward. It became clear that Nike not firing on all cylinders on the innovation front was really when the problem started beginning, and it ceded market share to players, particularly in the running space, like On and HOKA.
Everybody wears these. Yes, this is the HOKA Clifton 9. It is the hottest running shoe.
Tell me.
Inventory piled up as consumers started to pull back and turn to other brands.
The core problem at the end of the day is that the North American consumer started seeing Nike as being a little bit cheapened because there was such an excess of product. And this goes back to the idea of when you have too much, you become less interesting, you become less popular, you become less cool. If there's no line outside of a club, most people aren't walking in.
Experts say the lesson learned is for retailers to remember what they do best, something Nike may have lost sight of in its effort to become a tech operation.
Being a technology company is not what makes you special. The mantra of tech is disrupt. Everyone wants to disrupt. If you're doing a really great job, sometimes disrupting yourself is a bad thing. And so figuring out how to evolve rather than break, I think is really important.
By early 2024, Nike started quietly returning to wholesale partners.
You're also leaning into wholesale, which is a bit of a change from Nike. It's been all about direct to consumer, sell on your website, sell in your stores, and now there's a shift. Why?
Coming out of COVID, it was quite clear consumers were also moving back into physical retail. And we recognized that in our movement toward digital, we had over-rotated away from wholesale a little more than we intended. So we've corrected that. We're investing heavily with our retail partners.
Foot Locker's relationship with Nike seems to have improved substantially. Nike needs them more than Nike thought. That's very important. It ain't just all DTC.
In September 2024, the company announced Elliott Hill would take over for Donahoe as CEO.
Elliott Hill is someone that Wall Street doesn't know well, but internally at Nike, what I hear is he's known very well and very popular. This is a guy that started as an intern at Nike and has now worked his way all the way up to become CEO. He's a 32-year veteran. He also came up through the sales channel. So there are great expectations that he will know what produces a hit and will help turn around the innovation problem that Nike has suffered under John Donahoe.
In its most recent earnings call, Hill said the company will focus on clearing out excess inventory and reinvesting in sports marketing.
We lost our obsession with sport. Moving forward, we will lead with sport and put the athlete at the center of every decision.
This is not a story that 6 months from now we're going to be cheering about. This is going to be an 18-month plus show me how you're going to compete with all the smaller brands that have come from behind and the customers fallen in love with.
They need to reinvigorate. They need to remind people that Nike is special. And so I think if I'm Elliott right now, I think what I'm doing is I'm going back to my product people and I'm saying, I don't know what you've been working on in the past. Maybe you have something new, maybe you don't. Let's see. What is this innovation? innovation pipeline. And as soon as we can start telling people we have good product, then we will put really good marketing. Why does Nike win? Well, Nike has the largest research and development budget, and Nike has the largest marketing budget.
Last time I checked, winning is winning.
As long as they use that effectively, it's very hard to compete against. It doesn't mean that new brands can't emerge, doesn't mean that new brands can't take some share, but it means that Nike should always be able to get it back as long as they have their eye on the ball.
Sports apparel brand, if you're gonna be a brand where you're like your pulse is really on the people, you always have to keep up. And I think that's just one of the biggest reasons why they're that. And I think sports in general, I think has seen a decline. Like one of the things that people have talked about is like a big decline in the NBA and how like the viewership has gone down. So I think a lot of these companies are just having issues keeping up with Gen Z and keeping up with trends and how to stay youthful and appeal to people who are younger. Because you got to think people's attention spans, especially people that watch TikTok, their attention spans are low. And you have to find a way to captivate their, you can't depend on them to sit down and watch a 2-hour game.
Nothing. He literally said everything.
Okay.
Literally.
Everything you wrote?
Bro, I talked the NBA part I have on there. Damn. And I can't disagree with anything you said. I think you're spot on. I'll just go a little deeper into each of it. I think that with the NBA viewership is down. I think they said 52%. I don't know from when that date was, if it was year over year or however long that time frame was, but a lot of times Nike's told their stories through the NBA. Think about Jordan. I mean, come on, that put him on a map. I mean, that took him to another level. So now NBA is slipping. So if anything, maybe they should shift their focusing on the NFL or maybe running, because running apparently was a big, because apparently I didn't know this, but from watching the video, running was a big segment of their business that was really doing well, but they moved away from that a little bit, and so it got taken over by HOKA and On. So if they should shift their focus maybe towards running and NFL, some other major sports leagues, while the NBA figures their ish out. And also they were saying, because you said they haven't innovated in a long time, apparently what they were saying is that they hired a CEO who was big on tech, and they tried to innovate by going towards a more direct-to-consumer model. So they weren't focusing on developing their shoes as much as they were trying to go online and
be like a Amazon kind of thing where, okay.
And so they thought that they were doing the right thing because COVID gave them a misread. And so after COVID ended, they're like, oh crap, we still need Foot Locker, we still need a big sporting goods. So now they're trying to go back to that route. So
I mean, because you got to think a big part of shoes is what? Trying it on.
Oh yeah.
Fits. And if you're an athlete, the fit, because different shoes, I don't know if you guys are into shoes or sneakers or have ever done sport, but a lot of times when you play sport, different shoes feel a different way. So if you play basketball, there's certain shoes that are made for people that have a very narrow foot. There's certain shoes that are made for a very wide foot. And the thing is, if you can't try that on, that makes it very hard to kind of choose what kind of shoe that you want. Because online, you're doing this online is not a good determination of how it's going to fit on your foot. So I think that's also big. And yeah, I mean, I just think Nike has just lost their way. And I also think a really big point that a lot of people are missing, like the whole news clip is missing, is that I remember back in the day, right? You could buy one shoe and that one shoe could do everything. So you could have a basketball shoe that could look good with jeans. You could wear it everywhere. You could have a running shoe that would look good with jeans. You could wear it everywhere. Now it's kind of like everything's kind of compartmentalized, right? Whereas like the running shoes are just for running. You can only wear them for running. They look terrible with jeans. The basketball shoes are only for basketball. You can only wear them when you're hooping. And a lot of people now, they don't have a whole lot of money. They don't have money to do all this stuff. And it doesn't help that the basketball shoes are like $200. The running shoes are like $200. And now as a kid, I remember me as a kid, every year, my mom would be like, listen, you get one pair of shoes. And I would either pick a white pair of shoes, I would pick a black pair of shoes, or sometimes they'd be both. I didn't have enough money to have like both pairs of shoes or 5 pairs of shoes when I was young. So I had to choose one. And I think a lot of people at this point are like, well, I'd rather just be comfortable. So I'm just gonna get the comfort. A lot of times these comfortable shoes are like $100. So what are you gonna choose? You're gonna choose a $200 Nike shoe that's good for one thing, or are you gonna choose the New Balance shoe that's like $100 that looks good with everything and you can do it for everything? So
yeah, clearly I'm not a sneakerhead at all. So I can't add much as far as like stories from a childhood or whatever. So, but I mean, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. Only time I buy sneakers is for the gym. That's it, to wear to the gym. Other than that, I'm in some kind of like dressy stuff. I mean, I'm not really the right target market for this, but I can recognize where Nike has. Because I do remember like back when I was in middle school and high school, I don't know, one of those two, Air Force Ones were like,
yeah, if you had Air Force, right, like a clean white pair, man, people, you walk around school, people be like, okay.
Yeah, you were that guy. Yeah, you were him or her, I guess. I remember they even started mismatch. Remember the mismatching time where they used to wear like different colored?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
We used to do some oversized tee. My gosh, don't go mismatch in the Air Force.
That doesn't need to ever come out. Yeah, the 3X, I know some of you guys are young, but the 3X is the worst.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, that was like the cheapest style. Like I would walk in the Foot Locker and like my mom would be like, all right, what do you want? And I'd be like, I want one long white tee, one long black tee, one long blue tee, one long red tee. And it was just so easy. And I remember like my aunt, she used to cook me on it. She used to be like, oh, that looks so bad. That looks so unprofessional. Like, how are you gonna do this? And then her husband comes home and he wearing the same thing.
That's fair. That's fire.
That crazy. He's a grown-ass man. This man was like 30, 40-something years old. Nonetheless, guys, yeah, I mean, I think Nike has just made all the bad decisions. They can easily, I think they could get it back. I think the biggest part is just marketing towards your audience and stop being greedy. Like, those shoes don't cost that much to make. They don't need to be $200.
Hey, listen, Nike better be counting their blessings that Kanye put his foot in his mouth, because Kanye was taking Adidas to another level. So if it wasn't for him acting crazy, it might be even worse for Nike.
No, you're right, because even now, like the last 5 years, like the only people I really see wear Jordans like that are like older people. Or people, like you'll see like millennials wear it. Cause I'm like kind of in between Gen Z and millennial, like my age group.
Zennial.
So yeah, Zennial, whatever.
Yeah.
So I see some people like my age wear like Jordans, but like a lot of people, especially the younger people, like my niece and nephew, all they wear is Yeezy. They don't know nothing about no Jordan.
That's the crazy part. Cause yeah, Jordan is like, in my opinion, and this is very controversial to some people for some reason that it shouldn't be. To me, he's obviously the best. He's the GOAT.
He's the best man.
He's the GOAT. Changed the game in many ways. So, but that age group of people that really saw him as that, they're getting older. So now people like who? LeBron, the Steph Currys, and whoever else, they're like, no.
Yeah.
But my point is that thing that kept people buying the Jordans, I mean, it's still there, but it's going to phase out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely phasing out. I saw it already.
So Nike needs to find some other way to capture that, you know, that magic again.
All right, guys, let us know what you think. Do you think Nike has made good decisions these last couple of years? Leave a like, leave a comment. Do you think they made some bad decisions and they're outdated? Leave a like, leave a comment. All right, decision makers, we outdated.